in your opinion, what would be the beneficial amount to increase the authorized funding level to the program? And should we increase it? Yes or no? Yes. And to what level? What would you say? A third? A half? 100%?
The total amount? Well, we've been asking for up to $1 million per project, and in some instances, you heard the mayor talk about maybe in special exemptions up to $2 million.
No, for the whole program.
Colleagues?
All of it. What would happen if it were doubled? What would happen to the ability for you to file and get cleanup?
Currently, in every congressional district in this country, there's at least 30 identified brownfield sites. And if you look at the 30 identified brownfield sites at a minimum in every congressional district, and you pick a number, I think this panel would gladly leave it up to this body on what number you'd want to pick, because...
But what would you do with the money is what I'm asking every community. Would it help foster your economic growth, your cleanup?
Go ahead. Absolutely, yeah. All that.
Yes, without a doubt, member. I would just like to say, echoing what they're saying, as I said earlier, we have, just in Rialto alone, 25 identified sites. It's not counting surrounding communities. And even though Rialto and the areas such as Colton and my neighbors, we're all seen as urban or suburban areas, I would think that if you were to increase the program, perhaps we would be able to move forward on not only our own sites, but also on some of our neighboring sites, such as the application I have before
But what
now.
would it mean to economy to each site?
Right, but at least it would allow us to do multi-jurisdictional assessments with the county and with our local agencies, and so we could attack and address the issue, I think, a more effective way if we knew we had more resources available. Currently, we have to decide how can we, one, be successful, and at the same time, do it in a manner that we look at multi-jurisdictional applications from now on.
And you heard me state that we sent a letter to the leadership in regard to the cut of funding to the EPA program, the brownfield program. We haven't received a response. Are any of you concerned about the elimination of the program?
Yes, absolutely. And I would say that only about a third of all applications that are submitted are actually funded. So to answer your previous question, if you increase the program by 3, I think that would be moving in the right direction.
Anybody else?
Madam, a couple of weeks ago, I met with the administrator with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and part of his comments were extremely encouraging when it came to funding brownfields and Superfund sites.
Let's remind him of that.
I hopefully will have the opportunity to do that. But he also said that he was going to take that position to the White House and be firm and stern about funding brownfields and Superfund sites. And he saw that from his perspective as the new administrator as a priority in the upcoming budget.
Let's hope the president agrees with him.
I agree, Congresswoman.
One of the original goals of the brownfields law was to invest in communities of underserved populations. Has the implementation followed through on the original goal? Anybody?
Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to at least address that to begin with. In some degree, the money, the resources that have been made available in Rialto has definitely helped. When I was making my comments earlier about the federal legislation that allowed for the relocation of the General Aviation Airport, it was very ironic. The city took on the facility, which was really, in the past, a military installation. Yet, when it was time for us to do cleanup and identified hazardous waste there at that property, because the city owned it, it's back to what we're talking about, the liability. It becomes a big problem. We couldn't even apply funds to that. Nonetheless, we're moving forward. We are redeveloping an area that is going to bring about a significant retail, commercial, industrial, and housing area to the tune that when we build out the total 1,500 acres, we're going to see approximately a $2 billion investment. Sadly, that investment and what we'll see, envision, will not have occurred with the brownfield dollars. But fortunately, we've used them in other areas within the city, an 18-acre area where we're going to be able to do similar, and we will be able to bring about a public fire station and other open spaces. So it has been an advantage to the underserved communities.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ranking Member. We're going to next go to Mr. Ferguson from Georgia.
Well, thank you all for taking time today. Just a few months ago, I was sitting where y'all are as mayors and representatives of my local communities, and Lord, sometimes I sure do miss that compared to what we get to go through now. But I will say this: as a mayor, I have dealt with